William Heavlin and his wife Noreen will be our worship leaders today. They're visiting us from the UU Coastline Fellowship up there around Half Moon Bay. Bill includes this quote from William Blake in his description of our services. To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Noreen Heavlin, and I'm with the Unitarian Universalist Coastside community. It's really lovely to be here today, and it's great to see so many hands pitching in to make this wonderful community work. And it's also lovely to see people without gray hair, even though the people with gray hair are wonderful too. We have a lot of gray hair at UUCC. So the reading today is about the Buddha's flower sermon. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a background information about what that was. So the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, once gave a flower sermon. And the tale goes a little like this. On Vulture Peak, India, many gather to hear the Buddha speak. The Buddha takes his place as if ready to speak, to give a Dharma talk. And that's a term of art, Dharma talk. So he holds up a blossom of a blue lotus, and nearly everyone thinks, okay, nice flower, and now he's about to speak. What's he gonna say? Well, the Buddha holds the flower for 15 minutes in silence. The gathered get restless. When's he gonna speak? One attendee named Mahakashayapa just smiles, and the Buddha slowly blinks and says, I entrust the true Dharma eye to Mahakashayapa. End of the flower sermon. So that's one foundation story of Chan Buddhism, better known in the West as Zen. And it's a special kind of mind-to-mind transmission of the Dharma beyond the spoken words of scripture. Now, can you imagine any UU minister getting up and holding a flower and being silent for 15 minutes? How would that go over? So some comments. It's short. Here's a pretty flower and one guy smiles back. 2, it's nonverbal. Really, just look at the pretty flower. One guy understands that that's the whole message, not the prologue, and it's centered in the present. There's no imagining the flower fading into dust, no tragedy of existence stuff. The flower is beautiful now. So this sermon is about paying attention, not just to words, but to everything, paying attention to the world around you. There's also a transmission from teacher to student of a deep, intuitive insight. So additionally, the flower sermon might be apocryphal because it's not even found in the Pali Canon. Its earliest recording was in China about 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years after the Buddha's life, but it's a founding story of Chan Buddhism, an example of an innovation from the edge, ultimately influencing mainstream Buddhism. So what happens next is our spin on the flower sermon, and I permit you to smile or half smile or sub-vocalize or do anything as long as you pay attention. So when you're walking in the woods and you're looking around you, how often do you really see those beautiful flowers around you? I mean, in super detail. So we're going to do a little meditative practice right now. And I'm asking you, as I hold each flower up, to take a moment to really appreciate the detail and beauty of each of these flowers.
Thank you. As Noreen said, it's wonderful to be here, to come here again. And I see some familiar faces. And across the room, I see familiar smiles, welcoming smiles, like we've known one another a long time, even if we've not yet met. Which reminds me of a story. It's one story, but maybe today I'm going to sort of tell it two ways. It's Plato's allegory of the cave. It goes something like this. 100 years after Buddha, Plato writes The Cave. Plato describes people chained in place, facing a blank wall on which are projected the shadows of puppets. The shadows have names, and for these chained up people, those shadows are their entire reality. The whole setup's some kind of BC setup of a movie theater. Unbidden, one prisoner, let's just call him number 6, gets unchained, turns around, sees the projector and shadow puppet setup, gets slightly blinded by the projector's light. Number 6 scrambles out of the cave, gets blinded all over again by the sun. Then, adjusting to sunlight, number 6 returns to tell his former prisoners, and it's dark in the cave, certainly to his sun-adapted eyes. So he stumbles while returning. Then, cave site returning, he reports his discoveries. He's disbelieved, ostracized. Some kind of social immune system kicks in to kick him out. There's a standard interpretation. Prisoner number 6 is the philosopher escaping from the everyday world to discover the essence of reality. So number 6 is right, everyone else is wrong, and everyone else is in some inferior state. I'm trying to see more of my fellow prisoners. Thank you, Bob. Here's another interpretation. Plato's cave. It's cinema. That's your hometown, your high school. Number 6 leaves home for college, encounters some new people, new ideas. Bedazzled a little, number 6 takes on new values, values reinforced by the new people. Some of these new people are faculty, but more of them are fellow students. Nice people, some of whom are gay. Number 6 learns gay people are nice people. Learns the new lingo to talk to the new people, like introductions with pronouns. Yet there's no one to teach number 6 how to talk to the folks back home. My aunt, with a master's degree in education, by the way, once asked me why I was getting a PhD in statistics. I muffed the answer. To me, I was pursuing beauty. She asked me what good that was. She was really saying that it'd take me away from Rapid City. It would take me away from South Dakota. And I had no elevator speech queued up to describe my journey, which was only just then beginning. So, conversations with the hometown folk can become difficult. Number 6 is out of practice, underexperienced. Introducing yourself with pronouns might not send the right signals or signals well received. Now, you can add some layers. College-age kids are seriously works in progress, trying to work out their relationship with peers, their place in the economy and the world, all while building out what might be called a young adult identity, individuating, growing up, going to college, learning the word individuating. And the job market for recent college graduates is essentially a nationwide market, with many graduates not returning to their hometowns. Water break. Okay. Whew. With enough help from friends. Okay, now, every number 6 knows a lot of people in their hometown, but not many where their first post-college job lands them. In a social sense, they've moved to the edge of the world. The hometown people haven't changed. They remain still at the center of their world. Well established in the metaphorical sense in their garden. Number 6 has changed, gone to the social edge of the world, turned all wildflower, with college values seeking a new network of friends. Center and edge, home garden and wildflower. So the second interpretation of Plato's allegory of the cave sees a breakdown in communication, a disconnect in values between the center, whose hometown folk at the cinema, where do we come from, and the edge, those bedazzled with new values from college. Who are we? Where are we going? Particularly acute in California, where so many of us come from somewhere else. Symbolically represented by the California state flower, the California poppy, a wildflower. Center and edge. I first encountered this idea from historian Thomas Cahill. Did you know that the ancient Greeks thought the ancient Romans were bumpkins? Not good at philosophy, poetry, the literary arts. And the Romans thought the Greeks couldn't build roads, fight battles, or run empires. Same with the British and French. Think 19th century. The British ran empires, had strong armies and navies, and the French looked at them and said, "You guys can't cook." No culture. Similarly, the British considered the Americans uncultured, even as the Americans ran the more vibrant economy. And while the east and west coasts of America shrugged about the middle of the country, the middle of the U.S. produces much of our agricultural exports and fosters values of honest, practical work, extended family networks, and strong community. You get the idea. You formulate this self-complementing outlook based on where you stand. The folk in the hometown value themselves as the center, the place around which the family revolves. Yet, there's something to appreciate about the edges. As described earlier, the flower sermon, the founding story of Zen Buddhism, represents an innovation from the edge. And Thomas Cahill makes such a claim about Ireland. In the Dark Ages, Ireland became the repository of classical knowledge and sacred texts. Why are they called the Dark Ages? Because there's nothing written down in the historical record. Continental Europe literally went dark, unrecorded, ruled by illiterate petty kings, gangsters really. In effect, during the Dark Ages, Ireland functioned as its library, preserving manuscripts of the classical world, Christian and non-Christian. Ireland became the ICU for a literate Christianity, the ancient classics and literacy itself. And by the 6th century, Irish clerics began exporting themselves, establishing monasteries back into Britain and later into continental Europe. Colonists, yes, but sending monks, not soldiers, armed with books, not swords. With this twist, women came too. Women religious leaders, abbesses. In Ireland, women always had higher social standing, and women religious institutions remain one of the lasting results of this Irish religious recolonization. There's this ecology analog. When one ecosystem is devastated by fire, neighboring ecosystems start contributing their species into the resulting ecological blank space. In this way, the edges can work to restore the center. By the way, a restored ecosystem shows little evidence of an edge's role. The memory of a congregation receiving help, this fades as new leadership stands up. The French Catholic Church becomes again like the French Catholic Church from before. And oak trees replace any surge of coastal sagebrush. Ecosystems don't do gratitude, except the wildflowers. Coastal wild irises linger over the hill. The French Catholic Church now has woman-run convents, and UU Coastside community still has friends in many nearby congregations. The wildflowers whisper of a subliminal story, an almost invisible story, a beautiful story, hope in the midst of adversity. And today, my main message is to speak is how to speak across the center edge gap, the garden to wildflower gap. This difference that currently so divides, it so defines our political culture and so raises our blood pressure, the red-blue gap. In the spring where we live, it starts with oxalis blooms, yellow flowers. The kids call it sour grass. Technically, it's a weed. I'm not here to tell you oxalis is cool. I'm here to tell you that oxalis looks good when mixed into a bouquet of wild irises. And rhubarb is special to me. My mother would make strawberry rhubarb pie. Now I make rhubarb pie mixed with strawberries grown in California, where I have established my home. Here's the deal. If you're at the edge, talking to the center, it helps greatly to speak of those elements of your home and your hometown, this one-time center that still remain part of you, to articulate them. The where do we come from part of you. Some a source of gratitude, some the abrasives that have shaped you. All the raw material forming chapter 0 of your lifetime journey. And if you're the center, occupying the home of kids now launched, it helps greatly to explore with curiosity how your progeny, now gone all wildflower, have come into themselves, how they've developed separately, individuated beyond you, the where are we going part of you. Let's call these the 2 bridges. Bridge 1, centers seek with curiosity, and bridge 2, edges speak of commonalities. Commonalities. Do you remember what Barack Obama said while campaigning in Iowa in 2008? He looks visibly different from all those white Iowa voters. And he talks, well, fancy. And he says, oh, they're just like my grandparents. Now that's commonality. Do these bits of advice seem different or complementary? Both build bridges. And in case you haven't noticed, I'm trying to change the world here, one authentic conversation at a time. And from witnessing such conversations, I've observed yet another bridge, and indeed a craving. The third bridge softens such center edge divides. One's ancestors. I'm 3 generations deep in South Dakota, and my family there, my hometown folk, their identity is shaped by having ancestors coming from Norway and Denmark, those one-time wildflowers from whom my family descends. So hometown folk take pride in these wildflower ancestors, softens them about wildflowers present in their living family, now living at the edge of the world. And the craving of which I spoke, this requires more care. This is a craving to speak more authentically. For instance, if someone is trans, to be accepted as being trans, to speak of themselves as if, for that moment, The audience doesn't matter, and the speaker does. And there's room for this. And there's room for this. And I've come to believe that this room comes not for free, but is to be purchased. It is room purchased by building bridges earlier in the conversation. Some theorists quote a 5-to-1 ratio, 5 positive or bridging remarks for each remark that might land less comfortably. Bridges give you 20 cents, authenticity costs you $1. Let me dare to summarize. 3 bridging messages. To seek curiously, which amounts to asking questions, especially for centers to inquire about their edge counterparts. To inquire of the wildflowers among them. 2, to reflect commonality, especially for edges to inquire of the centers. To recall vacations or adventures of yesteryear or of family recipes. And 3, to discuss family history, to invite discussions of families, their history and origins that work to bridge the center edge gaps. And let us acknowledge the craving for authenticity, for that authentic present time, present tense self-presentation with the 5-to-1 ratio favoring bridging messages. I've come to see relationships like building a bouquet, flowers, weeds, and things between flowers and weeds, like oxalis, broom, like half smiles, like questions, like stories that have no point, but still we chuckle. Into this bouquet, not every bloom or blade of grass comes from any single one of us. That's the point. And today, that's our shared miracle. Amen.